Many of Sheffield's landmarks have been made famous, if they needed any additional support, by the television coverage from the BBC. Many a time you can see Rob Walker doing introductory segments for television programmes from this area. Take note of the giant ball behind me. Not easy to knock this about on a big billiard table. It would have to be half the size of Sheffield, I would imagine.
Stay there.
Welcome to Cues and Views, first on the web for collecting English billiard cues. Here we are outside the cue zone in Sheffield, where the World Snooker Championship takes place every year in April and May. What I'd like to speak to you about now is the two styles of player that play in these championships from our point of view as Cues and Views, people who are interested in Cues and Views. One of the things that's interesting is for people who use old cues, i.e. antique cues or cues that have been around for say 40-50 years. Such people as Sean Murphy, who uses a Tom Newman cue, albeit with some small modification. People like Dominic Dale, who prefers an old cue when he can find one that's suitable, that's reliable enough for him to use. People like Ray Reardon, who used Burwatt Champion cues. Alex Higgins, who also used Burwatt Champion cues. Two other players that used more modern cues at the time that seem like old cues to us now are Cliff Thorburn and John Spencer, who both used Adam cues to great success in the 1970s and early 80s. Tony Knowles, a player who prefers a Willie Smith Champion cue or a Willie Smith record cue made by Burroughs and Watts of London. These cues and these players are evocative. They bring back memories of great matches and great performances at the Crucible, which is again just behind the Winter Gardens, which is behind me. Sheffield has become synonymous with snooker, much in the same way that Wimbledon has with tennis, Lords with cricket and so on. These sporting venues are part of the legend of what makes snooker popular, what reaches out to the popular, what reaches out to people in the wider sort of community, the viewing public. Identifying a place with a sport gives an added dimension, and from our point of view, getting to know more about the equipment that people use, people's individual preferences, your favourite player, which cue he prefers to use. For example, I've used for many years in match play a Sheridan cue made in Sheffield itself. Nigel Bond, a long-time professional and multiple ranking tournament winner, uses a Sheridan cue and has done as far back as I can remember. Interesting topic. Players who prefer brand new cues, like Steve Davis using his famous Ye Olde Ash cue. So these are some of the stories that make the sport additionally interesting for us. Hello, here we are in the Winter Gardens in Sheffield. Just behind me there's the Crucible Theatre, where today and tomorrow the World Championship final will be taking place. Ronnie O'Sullivan is currently on 3 World Championship wins, 3 finals, 3 wins. Who I want to speak to you about is a player who some years ago, 40 plus years ago, carved out a career with a very similar pattern in some ways, and this would be John Spencer. John Spencer, who won the World Championship 3 times, the third of which was in 1977, the very first winner at the very impressive theatre that we have behind us now. John Spencer won 1969, 1971 and 1977, the most famous win being, as I've said before, at the Crucible Theatre, just behind me here in Sheffield. John Spencer, very stylish player, famous for a very good cue action for the time, very technically capable of major screwback shots and very flamboyant, extravagant uses of spin, particularly when frames were won, not in the style necessarily of Jimmy White, but certainly an entertaining player to watch and very, very stylish. I'll speak more about John Spencer in a moment. Once again we're in the Winter Gardens in Sheffield, and behind me you'll see the BBC television set for World Snooker Championship 2012. Today the final between Alistair Carter and Ronnie O'Sullivan will be beamed around the world, and much of the comment and footage that we get from here to add interest and colour to the event will be filmed on the very set behind me.
Right, we're going.
May 2012. Behind me you'll see the world famous in snooker circles Crucible Theatre of Sheffield. Personally, I've been coming to snooker matches here for over 20 years. I've seen century breaks, great performances, great comebacks. I remember being here for Shaun Murphy versus Neil Robertson, and Neil Robertson was on a comeback. There's nothing like the atmosphere in the theatre behind me. Some people come here to gamble, some people come here to win and lose snooker matches, and some people come here for what for them is a great fun holiday time. Weather's picked up today. It's a lot better than it has been over the last few days. Hopefully the quality of the snooker final that's taking place over the next 2 days will match the weather. I'm really looking forward to it. There he is, John Spencer. A man who, without realising it, got me interested in snooker, and perhaps in an indirect way, interested in snooker cues. John Spencer was famous for having a cue that he'd used at his local institute, practising snooker once or twice a week, playing league matches. A cue held together with a 6-inch nail, a cue that appeared to have been chewed by a very, very hungry dog. John Spencer won 2 of his 3 World Championships with this cue. Mentioned in his book Spencer on Snooker, which I got from the library when I was quite a young fella. Read that book, enjoyed the style of the book, enjoyed the fact that he was a northern person like myself, north of England that is, and I enjoyed the opportunity to find out a little bit more about the game, how it's played and so on, from his book, which was co-written by Clive Everton. More recently famous as a snooker commentator and as the writer stroke editor of Snooker Scene magazine. Now John Spencer, as we've said already, won 3 World Championships, and John Spencer was something of a first snooker hero of mine. I liked his style, I liked the fact that he had the bravery to move over to a 2-piece centre jointed cue, and he was actually the first person to win the World Snooker Championship with the 2-piece centre jointed cue. John Spencer.